Most relationships, if you think about it, are actually transactional. It's just about what can I do for this person, what can this person do for me. Very few people are actually going to spend time around you just for the sake of being around you, if you think about it. And I know people are going to say I sound pessimistic, I sound cynical. I don't think I do. I'm just saying things as they are because usually that's how it is. If you actually think about it, most people don't actually have very good social skills. It's very easy for people to come up to people like me and say, I need to improve my social skills. And I mean, of course I do. I'm a very socially awkward person. I cannot even make small talk with a person in an elevator anymore. But the thing is that people don't realize is that social awkwardness is only one example of bad social skills, but there are a lot of examples of bad social skills if you think about it. Not being an emotionally intelligent person, overstepping people's boundaries, only speaking to people when you need something from them and otherwise not speaking to them, not being able to apologize when you've done something wrong to somebody. These are also examples of bad social skills. But you want to know something? Even if you do any of those things, and of course there's more, but even if you do any of those things, as long as you can still entertain people and as long as you can still be there, make people laugh, all of that, people will forgive that because you can at least still engage, connect. But if you're so socially awkward where, like I said for myself, you can't even make small talk, then yeah, you're basically useless at that point and you're casted out. I mentioned this in my first video where I also talk about loneliness, but I was never completely alone in the sense where I didn't have people around me. But when I look back at my entire life, I realize that I've only ever had negative influences. Nobody ever taught me anything. Nobody ever helped me with anything. Nobody ever actually, came up to me and told me that I need to break the cycle. I need to be better than, the people who hurt me. Nobody ever taught me anything. I always had to figure everything out by myself, and it's still this way to this day because one thing that I've always had a hard time with is being assertive, showing a healthy amount of aggression. And yes, there is a healthy amount of aggression. Some aggression is kind of necessary sometimes. And for a very long time, I blamed myself for not doing that, but for taking disrespect from people, bullying, all of that. But when I look back at my entire life, I realized that I was never equipped with the experience to be an assertive person, to know how to be strong in a healthy way. I was only ever surrounded by people who were either just completely aggressive, abusive, or people who just, like me, just took it and didn't even feel the need or see any importance in trying to improve. People who just gave it out completely or just took it completely, just the complete opposite ends of that spectrum, no middle ground. I never had anybody who taught me the importance of strength or even told me that it's necessary to do it at all to become a strong person at all. I mentioned this in many of my other videos, but after being really badly bullied, I started going to the gym and training martial arts so that people could never pick on me ever again. But the reason why I started doing that isn't because anybody instilled that need in me to do that. I can barely really even say anybody really inspired me at all. And the reason why I started doing that is because, like I said, I had to look at myself. I started doing all this when I was 18. I had to look at myself and say that, I'm not a person that people respect very much or like very much. I am a very easy target. I got physically assaulted many times. I have to take up more space in a room and I have to be more physically dominant. I need to have a more, broad chest, all of that. But nobody taught me any of that. All people ever told me was just either nothing or that I'm not good enough, just nothing but criticism and burdens for me to carry. And now they're criticizing me for not carrying the burdens that they're giving me well enough as much as they think I should, even though they're not carrying that same weight, right? But, I did that because when I started learning these things on my own, martial arts, going to the gym, as I said, and a lot of people might say, well, whether somebody teaches you or you learn by yourself, what's the difference? But the thing is that, having to learn it by yourself is a very harsh process because, I didn't, I was trying to grow stronger out of desperation, telling myself that if I don't do this, then people are going to hurt me again. If I don't do this, then no one will care about me. No one will look at me. That's not any way to learn anything. You don't learn under fear. You learn through guidance. Instead of a person who cared about me teaching me the importance of these things, I had to do it under fear, telling myself that if I don't do it, then I will be abused again, I will be hurt again. And when you do something out of desperation, you do it through tunnel vision, you ignore a lot of things, and you end up just getting yourself hurt in the end. I pushed myself way too hard to the point of burnout, which I'm still struggling with to this day. And all this could have been avoided if somebody actually tried to teach me. And that's the thing, there is some, I guess, I don't know, pride to learning things by yourself. But the thing is that it's also kind of disappointing when you're in my place and you realize nobody helped you or taught you anything. Because why do you teach a person anything? Because you look at them and think to yourself that, yeah, I want to see this growth in this person, right? But nobody wanted to see any growth, or more so, they didn't think I could grow at all. They just wanted to criticize me. I'm serious. Nobody ever taught me anything. All they said was that I'm socially awkward, I'm weak, I'm not good enough, but they didn't teach me how to not be that way anymore. That's it. Just constant criticism and nothing else, or just abandoning me when I wasn't good enough anymore. That's how it is. And I think that's what real loneliness looks like, when people look at you and they're there, but they don't stay, and they don't, and even when they are staying, they're not listening. I think that's what it is. And that's how difficult it is. But the thing is, though, is that a lot of people have argued before whether or not loneliness is freedom or loneliness is suffering. That's a very kind of difficult argument, because it's very easy. It's not even just clearly one or the other. You go back and forth multiple times between feeling that way, telling yourself, I don't care, because yeah, people have done nothing but abuse you your entire life. At least for once, when you're alone, nobody can tell you anymore that you're not good enough. But at the same time, they cannot tell you the opposite either. So really, what are you supposed to believe? Because of course you would want people around you. You shouldn't have to be in a place where you've been mistreated by people so badly to the point where you actually enjoy kind of being alone a little bit, because it's the one time where, at least for once, nobody can tell me how useless I am, how I'm not good enough, how I'm a loser, etc. But that's the place that I'm in at this point. But the thing is that it's actually a lot easier to turn your life around and to change yourself when you're alone, because like I said, I was around nothing but negative influences, and for a long time, I kept acting as if all of it was my fault. I never raised my hand in class. I would just sit at the back of the classroom. I didn't really join too many clubs that much. I didn't really take any initiatives. I was quiet. But the reason why I was like that was because I was either just screamed or yelled at constantly, instead of, taught or given any guidance, or I was just, I was around other people who did the same thing, maybe even less than what I did, right? Because at least I tried to take school seriously, but some of them wouldn't even study or anything like that. And to be honest, man, I really wish I spent more time around people who, when I was younger, around people who played sports or took interest in things that mattered, and not just people who just gossiped about worthless things that don't add anything to anyone's life, including theirs. But when that wasn't happening, it was just, being hurt in all kinds of ways, physically assaulted, screamed at, God knows what else. So really, if you were to ask whether or not loneliness is freedom or suffering, I'm at the point where I think it is freedom. Because I remember back when I was 18, yeah, 3 years ago, this was in February 2023. I would go to a university where I had to live in the dorms, and sometimes I would take a 2 hour long bus ride to visit my family every now and then, because I was living far from them, like I said, in the dorms. And I remember there was the first time when I took the bus home. I remember looking outside the window, and it was the evening time, and the way the evening sun was shining on the snow, it looked beautiful. And it was one of the very few times in my entire life where I actually felt the need to take a picture, because I needed to remember that moment. But I even remember back then, and this was a regular thing that I would experience in similar moments during that time, I would always feel like there was something missing, and I would always feel as though, you know, I enjoy this moment and I'm very grateful for what I'm able to see, but it still feels like there's something that I don't have, and I think that's that I'm not able to share this moment with somebody else. I look back at that time now and I realize that I was being ridiculous. I had this perfectly good view in front of me. I was at peace. I was enjoying something, and I still needed something else. If I had it somebody with me, they would probably just make me feel bad for enjoying it. So, see your loneliness as freedom and just go your own way and do your own thing, because people are just going to take your energy, especially if you're different. I know that shouldn't be the message. I'm supposed to encourage you to reach out and all that. And yeah, you should do that with the right people, but most people are just going to drain your energy anyway. And, I'm at the point now where I know I don't belong anywhere. I know that I'm not really welcome anywhere. I know that I'm different, all of that, and I've never been appreciated anywhere. Anytime I walk in, people just get upset when they just even look at me. So I just want to be at peace. I really don't care. I just really enjoy just doing my own thing, or spending at least just time with a few people at a time. And I'm tired of people telling me that I have something to be ashamed about when all I have done is just make sacrifices and try my best. And yeah, I just hope somebody relates.